Hi, it's Sherry from A Quilting Life, and I'm back today with the second video for the Together quilt as part of the Moda Stitch Pink 2021 Quilt Along. I hope that you had fun making the blocks that we introduced last week, and this week we're going to make some more heart blocks, and I'm also going to show you how to make the alternate block. So let's get started. Okay, once again, before we get started, I just want to point out that there are some directional fabrics that have been used here. The coral hearts with the red background, that is definitely a directional print, and so you want to make sure that you look at the block diagram and see how the pieces are going to be oriented before you cut them out so that you're not flipping the directions on those hearts. I wanted to keep the hearts all going the same direction in these blocks, and so just a note before you get started cutting to look at the directional prints. Okay, so let's get started. As I mentioned in the intro, we're going to be making some more heart blocks and using the same techniques that we used last week, but we're also going to start on our alternate blocks today. And so very quickly, I'm just going to mention that I did use the mini simple folded corners ruler for making my heart blocks, and I give you more details in the first week's video if you want to go back and look at that. I also mentioned the first week a 4.5 by 8.5 is really helpful when working with these smaller pieces, and I also mentioned the Olfa 1.25 by 12.5. Okay, so the first block we're going to be making this week is the 2 hearts and 2 squares. And when I designed this block, I really did design it around this fabric. I just wanted to be able to showcase some of these fun prints from the collection in this quilt. And so this two hearts and 2 squares blocks, you will actually be making 3. One with this color combination, and another block. You're going to use the same fabric for the squares, but you will be using the pink daisies and the pink hearts. I'm trying to remember which one I had on top. Pink hearts and pink daisies. And you're going to make 2 of these and just 1 of these. So, and it's the same exact technique for the hearts that we used last week. And so if you need to follow up on that, you can go look at that video for a really in detail showing of how to put those together. But 3 of these blocks, 2 of these, 1 of these. Okay, so the next one I'm going to get you started on today is 4 simple hearts. And you are only going to be making 1 of these blocks. And if you're using the Stitch Together kit, these are the fabrics that you'll use. And so exactly the same thing, the same method for making all of our hearts, and you're just going to be making 4 of these blocks. Well, 4 of these hearts. Okay, next we're going to get started on the alternate block. Let me get one and set it down here. Okay, and this is the block that you'll be making 15 of. And the good thing about making 15 of this block is that it really goes together very quickly. I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks for this one that will make it just a breeze to go through. But we do make 15 of these. We have a center 4 patch with the pink larger daisy and the small daisies on cream. And then this center 4 patch fabric also runs through the 4 outer 4 patch blocks, and they're all, if you'll notice, they're all going the same direction. I just really wanted to create a if you look at the pattern cover, I wanted all of those lines to be going through the quilt in the same direction. So just kind of a fun twist on this block. Sometimes people turn everything in, but I just wanted it all to kind of flow that way. So let me show you my tips and tricks for making this alternate block. First, you're going to be making the 4 patch units, and you're going to cut strips of this fabric and this fabric, and you're going to sew them together in pairs. And I wanted to show you that when I cut strips like this to save time, I like to stack them up. Now some of you probably know that if you stack them up right on top of each other, the seams are going to wobble when you try to cut it and you're not going to get an accurate cut. But what I like to do is stagger the seams so that I can cut more than one at a time. So I just make sure that none of my seams are on top of the other seams, and I will line up my edges, grab a ruler, and I can cut multiple pieces this way. And you can even stack up more. But then what we're going to do is we're going to put those in together and make our 4 patches that way. So you will be making 15 4-patch units, and those will go together really quickly, as I mentioned, with the strip piecing. Now we're also going to use strip piecing for these corner 4 patches, and those will be with the background fabric and the same print that we used in the center 4 patch. And I do the same exact thing when I trim these. I just stack them up. I make sure the seams aren't on top of each other. If you need to trim on this side, you can. And then you're just going to cut those pieces that you need for those smaller 4-patch units. And so you're going to make 60 of those in total, 4 for each of the 15 blocks. And once you've got all of those 4 patches made, and they really will go together quickly since you're using strip pieces, I'll just show you. I've got the block laid out here. You'll also be cutting rectangles out of your background fabric. And so each of these blocks will have the 4 small 4 patches, the 4 background rectangles, and your center 4 patch. And I did want to show you one other thing. Okay, so I'm going to show you, we're going to zoom in just a little closer. I'm going to show you how to achieve this on the back of your little 4 patches. I've heard it called different things. I've heard it called flipping the seams. I've heard it just a variety of different methods for it. But basically what you do, you've sewn your block, you've pressed, the initial strip sets were both pressed to the dark, you nested those seams. And so instead of pressing this seam in one direction or the other, or pressing it open, you're actually going to just kind of separate, and this side will go that direction, this side will go that direction, and it gives you that little 4 patch in the middle. Helps your block to be extremely flat, and your quilter will love you, especially if you're hand quilting. They will, you or whoever quilts it will really be happy for that flat area. It just eliminates a lot of the bulk. I do it with all of my 4 patch seams. Okay, so I just want to show you one more thing before we finish for today, and that is the pressing on the back of the block. So we talked a lot about how we flipped these little center portions of the 4 patches, but I wanted to be sure and show you that when I added the 2 side pieces to the center 4 patch, I did press out toward those side piece units, and I did the same thing in the top row. I pressed toward that rectangle, so we're always going to be pressing toward the background fabric rectangles. And then when I sewed the 3 rows together, I actually found it easier to press that in toward the center of the block. It just seemed to be a lot easier to do it that way for me. So those are the final pressing instructions. Okay, and there you go. So we've got, this is how you lay it out, and you're going to make 15 of these, and you're also going to be making these little heart blocks that we started today. If you don't get all 15 of these made this week, don't worry, maybe just try to make 7 or 8 of them, because next week we're just going to have a heart block and we're going to be making 5 of them. It is a little bit more labor intensive, but I feel like you'll be able to finish up these next week as well. And that's it for today's video. Have fun sewing more heart blocks and getting started on your alternate blocks. Okay, so I hope that you'll enjoy making these fun heart blocks this week and also getting a start on your alternate blocks. I was going to hold off on these until later, but because you have to make 15 of them, I went ahead and introduced those today. Just remember that we'll have all the links that you might need in the description below. We'll have a link to last week's video if you're just joining in and need to catch up on that, and pattern information if you didn't already get one from your local quilt shop, and also the links to the tools that I mentioned and anything else that we've talked about in the videos. Hope that you enjoyed this video, and we will see you next week for the 3rd video in our series. Thanks so much for stopping by.